I bought a crumbling cabin by the bay, cash, no regrets. 3 days later, the HOA president pounded on my door, furious. Turns out that beach wasn't hers to guard. It was mine. She called the cops. She had no idea what was coming. My name is Mara Doyle, 42, and I'd spent a decade saving for this cabin. The realtor called it a fixer-upper. I called it freedom, salt air, and silence. The previous owner, my great-uncle Walt, left it to me along with a strip of private beach. I moved in that spring, unaware a woman named Deborah Whitlock ran the neighborhood like her kingdom. On my second morning, Deborah marched onto my porch, clipboard in hand. I sharp. "That beach belongs to the HOA," she said. "You'll need our permission to use it." I laughed, thinking she was joking. Her face told me she absolutely wasn't. "Check the deed," I said. She sniffed and walked away, muttering about new people. The next day, a laminated notice appeared on my mailbox. Unauthorized beach access violation. I called the HOA office. Deborah answered herself, voice syrupy, warning me about community standards. By Friday, a fine arrived, $200 for trespassing on shared HOA property. I dug through Walt's old files and found a deed listing a private beach easement. I brought copies to the HOA meeting. Deborah barely glanced at them, waving me off. "Old paperwork means nothing," she said. "The board updated the bylaws years ago." Neighbors shifted uncomfortably, but no one spoke up. They'd clearly seen this before. Walking home, an elderly neighbor named Frank whispered, "Watch yourself. She ruins people quietly." That weekend, someone strung caution tape across my beach path, blocking it entirely. I tore it down. By morning, a new fine appeared, $500 this time. I started keeping a folder, dates, notices, photos. Something felt deliberately, personally targeted. For a week, things went quiet. I almost believed Deborah had backed off. I used the beach freely, coffee in hand, watching herons work the shallows at dawn. Then I found something strange in Walt's papers, a 1987 letter from the county surveyor. It mentioned a disputed easement claim the HOA had lost decades before Deborah ever arrived. Deborah showed up again, this time with 2 board members trailing behind her. "We're revoking your beach privileges permanently," she announced, like a queen issuing decree. I asked to see the HOA's original beach deed. She said it was being located. It never appeared. Instead, a locked gate materialized across the beach path overnight. I climbed it anyway. A trail camera flashed. Deborah had been watching, recording everything. She posted the footage in the neighborhood group, captioning it, "Trespasser ignores rules again." Comments piled up, neighbors parroting her outrage, though a few messaged me privately, apologizing. One woman admitted Deborah had fined her too, over a fence a half-inch too tall. Another whispered that HOA dues had risen 3 times, yet nobody saw a budget report. I began asking questions at the next meeting about where beach maintenance fees actually went. Deborah's smile tightened. "That information isn't for members," she snapped. Gaveling, the meeting closed. Frank caught me outside afterward. "She's been treasurer and president for 6 years straight. Nobody else has ever seen the books," he added. "She makes sure of that." That night, I requested official HOA financial records under state disclosure law, in writing. Deborah ignored my request for 2 weeks, then sent a lawyer's letter threatening a lawsuit. My car tires were slashed the following morning. No proof. But I knew exactly who. I installed my own cameras, quietly, angled toward the driveway and the beach gate. Deborah began telling neighbors I was unstable, and harassing the board over nothing. She organized a petition to have me formally removed from the HOA entirely. Someone spray-painted "Leave" across my fence. Deborah expressed shock, then blamed teenagers passing through. My cameras showed otherwise, her own silhouette, spray can in hand, at 2 a.m. I didn't confront her yet. I saved the footage and kept building my case quietly. She escalated further, filing a false report claiming I'd threatened her with a weapon. 2 police officers arrived at my door, hands near their belts, asking careful questions. I calmly showed them my deed, the footage, and the pattern of harassment documented. One officer exchanged a look with his partner. This isn't the first call about her. They left without charges, but warned me Deborah's complaints wouldn't stop anytime soon. I contacted the county recorder's office, requesting the full history of the beach easement. A clerk found the 1987 ruling. The HOA's beach claim had been legally denied. The private easement had passed, unbroken, through every owner of my cabin since then. I also requested 5 years of HOA financial statements, citing the earlier state law. The treasurer's report Deborah finally produced was riddled with vague, unexplained cash withdrawals. Frank quietly connected me with 2 other residents Deborah had bullied out of the neighborhood. Both agreed, nervously, to speak on record about the fake violations and pressure campaigns. I scheduled everything for the next open HOA meeting, where all members could attend. The meeting hall was packed. Deborah sat at the head table, gavel ready, smiling tightly. She opened by proposing my permanent expulsion for repeated, willful HOA violations. I stood and asked to present evidence before any vote. She hesitated, then allowed it. I laid out the county's 1987 ruling, proving the beach was never the HOA's. Gasps rippled through the room. Deborah insisted the document was outdated and irrelevant. I played the driveway footage, her spray painting my fence in the dead of night. Someone shouted from the back. Deborah's face drained of color, gripping the table's edge. I then read the financial statement, highlighting 6 years of unexplained cash withdrawals. Frank stood, naming the 2 neighbors she'd driven out with fabricated violations and threats. A board member demanded Deborah explain the missing funds. She stammered, then went silent. One resident called the sheriff's non-emergency line right there, reporting suspected embezzlement and vandalism. Officers arrived within 20 minutes, the same 2 who'd visited my cabin before. They reviewed the footage and financial records, then asked Deborah to step outside with them. She was arrested that night on charges of fraud, vandalism, and filing false police reports. The board voted unanimously the same evening to remove her permanently from every HOA position. Weeks later, a new board opened the beach to every resident. Free. No permits required. Frank and I now watch sunrise from the sand most mornings, coffee in hand, laughing. Deborah Whitlock never returned to the neighborhood. My great-uncle's beach finally belonged to everyone. The END.